This is the Everything Weight Loss podcast with Shari, Ware we talk about everything, all things, anything to do with weight loss, health, and wellness. So today we're up to episode number 4, and today I want to talk about insulin resistance. Now, I have a whole lot of notes today because there's a lot of information that I'm going to try and fit into a short period of time. I like to try and keep my episodes to 20 to 30 minutes just because I know I'm a busy person. I know a lot of people are busy and they want short, bite-sized chunks of information that they can then do something with and then move on to the next one. So that's my plan. And I'm going to refer to my notes so that I'm not telling you the wrong thing, because this is stuff that I'm learning along my journey. And as I learn things, I like to share them with other people who are wanting or don't even know that they need to know this stuff, but it might just resonate with you. So insulin resistance, what is it? So insulin resistance is when the cells in your muscles, your body fat, and your liver start resisting or ignoring the signal that the hormone insulin is trying to send out. So insulin is a hormone, one of the hormones that we have in our bodies. And the job of insulin is to grab glucose out of the bloodstream and put it into our cells. So grabbing the sugar out of our blood and putting it into our cells. So insulin is a hormone which is secreted by your pancreas. That's where it's produced and secreted from. Its main role is to regulate the amount of nutrients, so not just sugar, but the amount of nutrients that are circulating in our bloodstreams. It mostly impacts our blood sugar, but it also affects, protein and fat metabolism. So when we eat carbs, the amount of blood sugar in our bloodstream increases. The cells in our pancreas sense that the blood sugar has increased, and it releases insulin into the blood. Insulin then travels around the bloodstream, telling the cells to pick up the sugar from our blood. And this process results in reduced blood sugar levels, obviously. Now, it's important for our body to do this because especially high blood sugar can have toxic effects, causing severe harm and potentially leading to death if untreated. That's a bit drastic, but it can happen. So when cells stop responding to insulin correctly, this is called insulin resistance. So when that process that is supposed to happen naturally in our body stops working properly, that's what is called insulin resistance. And it causes our pancreas to produce more insulin to lower our blood sugar levels. So if we've got too much sugar in our bloodstream, our pancreas has to produce more insulin to bring the blood sugar levels down, and it then leads to high insulin levels in our blood, and that is called hyperinsulinemia. That's a big word. So over time, the higher the sugar levels in our blood, over a period of time, the more the pancreas has to produce insulin, the higher levels it has to produce in our body, then our cells become increasingly resistant to insulin, resulting in a rise in both insulin and blood sugar levels. So eventually our pancreas may become damaged because it's just overloaded. It's trying to keep up with the amount of insulin needed and it's not able to. And that then leads to decreased insulin production. So it can't keep up with what it needs to do, and it gets so damaged that actually the levels that it is able to produce decreases. So after blood sugar levels exceed a certain threshold, you may be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. That's when type 2 diabetes starts to kick in. So insulin resistance is a hallmark of two very common conditions. and they are metabolic syndrome and, as I just said, type 2 diabetes. Now, people with metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance have up to, and this is a scary number, but this is what I found in my research, they have up to a 93% greater risk of heart disease. So if you are insulin resistant or you have metabolic syndrome, and sometimes they go hand in hand, then you have up to a 93% greater risk of heart disease. Now, other diseases that are linked to insulin resistance are non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Lots of terminology here I've got to get my mouth around. So that is when you have fatty liver disease and it hasn't come from too much alcohol. Another one that a lot of people have probably heard about is PCOS or PCOS, a lot of people say it, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is linked to insulin resistance, as well as Alzheimer's and cancer. And studies have proven that cancer feeds off sugar. Sugar feeds cancer, so that's not really a surprise. So what are some of the main causes of insulin resistance? Some of the main causes are inflammation in the body, your gut microbiome not being quite right, some issues with your gut bacteria. Genetics can play a part, and especially for people who are of either Black, Hispanic or Asian heritage. Obesity, which being significantly overweight and specifically belly fat can be a cause of insulin resistance. And both of those two go hand in hand. In fact, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, which one causes the other. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Lack of exercise is a cause of insulin resistance. Not getting enough sleep is a big cause of insulin resistance, and a lot of people really don't realise that. And this is not a surprise. A diet high in carbohydrates or sugar and high fructose, but we're not talking about fruit. We're not talking about fructose from fruit. We're talking about corn syrup fructose that's added to processed foods and things like that. So now, what are some of the signs? And so that I don't forget to say this, because it's actually not in my notes, but it is, I think it's very important for people to know that a lot of times you can actually be born insulin resistant. You know, if you've got somebody who is insulin resistant and they're already insulin resistant when they get pregnant, then there is a possibility that the baby is going to be born insulin resistant and they're not even going to know. It's not all bad news, I promise. There's good news coming, but we need to go through this bit first. All right, so what are some of the signs of insulin resistance? Some of the signs are skin tags. If you don't know what they are, they're like little, and a lot of times they're around the neck, or I know some people have had them on their back, but they're like little tags of skin. They're a little bit floppy. They just kind of appear. When I was at my biggest, I had these little skin tags appear, and I had no idea what they were or what they were from, but obviously from insulin resistance. And as I released the weight and got healthier, because it's not just all about the weight, it's also about your nutrition and the health inside your body, not just outside, the skin tags went away. And it wasn't until later that I learned what they were a sign of. And if you're not sure, if my description isn't really telling you, if you're like me, you're a very visual person, you need to see a picture, just Google skin tags on the internet and you'll find lots of pictures. So skin tags, another sign is dark skin patches on the body. It can be on the neck, the elbows, the knees, the knuckles, the armpits. Now, I had that, and for many years, it wasn't until after, again, I released my weight that I found out what it was. But I remember at one point I had a black ring right around my neck, and it was just like a thin black line, like a necklace right around my neck, and it just looked like I hadn't washed my neck. It looked like dirt. It looked like a dirty ring around my neck. And I remember one day I didn't know what it was, and I just thought, oh, gee, I'm obviously not doing a very good job when I'm in the shower. And so I got in there one day, and I was trying to get it off, and I used all these skin exfoliators and scrubbed, and it didn't matter what I did, I just could not get this black ring off my neck. And as I released the weight and got healthier inside my body, that disappeared as well. So I was lucky, and it wasn't until, as I said, later in life that I found out what that was, what caused that, and that was my insulin resistance. Another sign can be a large waist, and for women, and I did mean to Google the centimetres, because when I did my research it was in inches and I forgot to, so hopefully somebody knows what the centimetres are or look up what they are. But for women, it's a 35-inch plus waist, and for men it's a 40+ inch waist, is a sign of insulin resistance. If you're looking at blood tests, I'm not a doctor, so most of us aren't doctors, but if you hear your doctor talking about things like high triglycerides, low HDLs, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, or high fasting blood sugar, they're all indicators of insulin resistance, so your ears should prick up. There are some tests you can do. I won't go into that because, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I am sure that if you wanted to get tested for insulin resistance, and if you feel like this is something that resonates with you, something that you feel could be an issue for you, because the issue is not only does it lead to diseases, as I've already gone through some of those things that it can lead to, what it means is that what we're told about you just have to eat less and move more, this is when that won't work for you. In the short term, yes, you will get results. Most people do. But we're talking about in the long term. If you are insulin resistant, then what works for everybody else is not necessarily going to work for you. So you're going to feel like you're doing all the right things, and it's not going to keep working for you. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you've got this issue in your body of insulin resistance. If you're not getting the results, if you're getting the results, great. But if you get to a point on your journey and you're still doing all the right things, we're not talking about being perfect here, but we do know when we're mostly doing what we need to do. If you are doing those things and you are not getting results, then I would highly suggest you go and get tested for insulin resistance, because that is a whole nother ballgame and it needs to be treated differently. So there are some tests that you can get done that will, but from what I understand, once again, I'm not a doctor, so it's something you need to talk to your doctor about, but there are tests, specific tests that you can do to see if you're insulin resistant, that most doctors, from what I understand, don't do. When we go to a doctor a lot of the times about any of these issues, a lot of the times they're looking at the symptoms. They're treating the symptoms. And when you think about going to a doctor, usually there's a short period of time that they have to spend with you. And you go in, you tell them what the problem is, and they help you the best way that they know how. So this is part of why I want to give you this information, so that if this resonates with you, if you think this is something that could be an issue for you, when you go to your doctor or whoever is helping you on this journey, this is something you can say, hey, I wonder if this could be something that is an issue for me. And once you know if it is, then you can do the things that are going to help you specifically. All right. It's just like you wouldn't treat you wouldn't treat asthma the same way you would treat diabetes, because they're two totally different things. It's probably not the best example, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so the good news is, took me a while to get there, but we got there. The good news is that you can reverse it, okay? Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. This is something that I am currently working on, because at this point in my life, I am 45 years old and I never knew this stuff until very recently. And so now, as I've said before, my health journey continues. And now part of my health journey is to work on reducing insulin resistance in my body, which 45 years old, I've had 45 years of not even knowing I had this problem, or basically 45 years of not even knowing that I had this problem, just knowing that sometimes it's really hard to, you know, it's really hard when you seem like sometimes you go 2 steps back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and finally realizing, oh, hang on, this could be something that's an issue for me, and doing the research and thinking, yeah, that's definitely something that is an issue for me. And so now I'm working at reversing it. So how can you reverse it? Getting to the point. This is where exercise is really good. I know you probably don't want to hear that, but this is one of the things that exercise is beneficial for. Exercise is beneficial for a lot of things, but one of the things is to help reverse insulin resistance and improve insulin sensitivity. That's two sides of the coin. We want to be insulin sensitive. We don't want to be insulin resistant. So exercise improves insulin sensitivity and reduces insulin resistance. Now, I'm not saying that if you're currently not doing any exercise that you need to go and start working out at the gym 7 days a week. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're currently not doing anything, maybe start by going for a walk for 10 minutes a couple of times a week. Start out small, work your way up. It's about creating the habit. Another way to reverse insulin resistance is to release belly fat. Well, that's no surprise. That's one of the reasons why it's a good thing to release the weight. Reducing our sugar intake. Now, I'm going to also talk about carbohydrates here. So we want to reduce our sugar and our carbohydrate. We want to reduce processed foods. And when I'm talking about carbohydrates, I'm not talking about fruits and vegetables. They're fine. I'm talking about the processed foods. I'm talking about the sugar. I'm talking about, the rice, the pasta, the bread. And I'm definitely not saying take every single one of them out of your nutrition plan. I don't say that word diet. That's a topic for another episode. I'm not saying that you need to take all of that stuff out of your nutrition plan, because where would be the fun in that? We do still want to enjoy our life, but it's all about balance. And if you just start by reducing those things, so this is one of the things I tell my clients, if we know that there's too many carbohydrates in the nutrition plan for the week, so talking about rice, pasta, bread, then we don't take it all out entirely. We start by saying, and sugar, sorry, adding in that sugar there. We start by saying, okay, how can we reduce it? If we're currently having 3 serves a day, let's look at cutting it down to 2 serves a day. And then when we're that level is now a habit, well then maybe we look at cutting it down to 1 serve a day. It's different for everybody. You've got to do what works for you, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to do this. Nobody else can do it for you. But looking at reducing carbohydrates, sugar, not taking them out entirely, and not cutting it down too low. There's still carbohydrates, good healthy carbohydrates are still something that we want to have in our nutrition plan. It's just the level of it, the amount of it, and the balance of it. Eating healthy. Hello, that's not a surprise. Omega-3 fatty acids, so some fish oil supplementation, or making sure you're getting your omega-3 fatty acids in somehow, however works for you. Some other supplements that can help with insulin resistance are magnesium. Magnesium is amazing. It is definitely one of the things that I recommend people supplement for many different reasons. That's another podcast episode as well. Berberine is also another supplement that can help with insulin resistance. Sleep, people, sleep. This is one of the biggest reasons why you need to make sure you get enough sleep time, so enough hours, and also quality of sleep. So quite often this can be the first place to start. If you know that you are not getting good quality sleep and enough of it, start by working that out, however you need to work it out, because if you've got insulin resistance, that is really going to help. And reducing stress. So that's why sleep is so important, because if you don't get enough sleep, and if it's not good quality sleep, it's more stress on the body. So the sleep and also other stress in general, reduce that, because too much stress on our body creates or exacerbates insulin resistance. This is a good one, donating blood. So if you can't donate blood for any reason, that's totally okay. But if it is something that you are able to do and you have insulin resistance, that will actually help you. And it's really a win-win, because not only are you helping other people, but you're helping yourself. So that is just awesome. And last but not least is fasting. Now, fasting is different to calorie restriction. That is another episode as well, because I want to keep the episodes to one topic. But fasting is something that can help with insulin resistance. There's lots of health benefits to fasting. So if that's something that you are ready for, that is something that can definitely help you. So that's pretty much all I wanted to get across in this episode. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If there are any questions that you have, I would love for you to comment and ask them. You can also contact me on any of my social media. I will make sure that I put the links in the show notes for you to contact me on my email, or on Facebook or Instagram, or however is best for you to contact me. I would love, if you have gotten value out of this episode, if you would give me a 5-star rating. I love 5-star ratings. I don't actually know if I have any yet, but it would be awesome, because this is a very new podcast. I might have one, but I'm always looking for more. That would be great. And give me some feedback on what you loved about it, if there's anything that I can improve on, and as I said, if there's any questions that you would like me to answer, I'd love to hear them. And I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Remember to check out the show notes, and if you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you've received value from this podcast, make sure to subscribe, and I'd love you to rate and review the show. Have a fabulous day.